Quite possibly the biggest story in the news today that is mostly being overlooked because of these campus protests. The U.S. has begun its invasion of Gaza. The IDF has split its way through the Gaza Strip, cutting off Hamas, with their last stronghold reportedly in Rafah. The U.S. is building a pier that will eventually attach to the coastline and function as a beachhead secured by the IDF, allowing the U.S. to bring in supplies. Now, of course, that is but my humble opinion. It is true that the U.S. is building a pier. It will attach to the coast. The IDF will secure it. But the U.S. says it's for humanitarian aid to deliver meals. Let me stress, a beachhead is when a hostile military force creates a base, a landing point of entry on a coast to deliver supplies. You want to call that humanitarian aid, call it whatever you want. The United States is an adversary of Hamas. Fact. Gaza is hostile territory. We are invading this country with 1,000 troops. And Matt Gaetz questioned Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who said it is likely, nay, probable that our troops will come under fire from Hamas and will return fire. That is invasion. It was reported by the Military Times already that this construction effort, this attempt at a beachhead, is already taking fire. I'm sorry. This one really pisses me off. The big news following this, of course, is the Biden administration is planning on giving refugees from Gaza permanent safe haven. And you may wonder, where does this news come from? And what is it? Why? How are there refugees in Gaza? What is going on? Well, of course, the IDF, Israel, has engaged in a military campaign in Gaza. And they've got to do something about the civilian deaths. They make Israel look real bad. The Biden administration has been very critical of Netanyahu and of Israel, surprisingly. And now you have your perfect storm. The U.S. building this beachhead and linking up with the IDF to secure a distribution into this hostile territory. Now you understand why they're talking about refugees. These actions undertaken by the United States and Israel will undoubtedly result in massive refugee populations. What are you going to do? Egypt says no. Jordan says no. Lebanon says no. What do? Perhaps you build a port where you can transport people from Palestine somewhere else. Maybe it's the United States. Now, we don't know for sure that the Biden administration will actually end up doing this, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. You take a look at Syria. You take a look at Afghanistan. You take a look at Iraq. When Western military industrial complex forces, NATO, the U.S., meddle in the affairs of these countries, displacing people and destroying everything, you get massive refugee populations, and the already severe immigration crisis is likely to get worse. I believe this is likely to happen within this year. Well, there is some good news, I suppose. Gen Z has soured on the issue of immigration. No joke. I got a poll. Gen Z is skewing towards Trump in a lot of ways. I don't know about the majority, but largely. And one of the issues may actually be immigration. It's actually quite simple. Gen Z is entitled. Gen Alpha is entitled. Millennials are entitled to the fruits of the labors of the generations that come before them. Now, you're not entitled to free stuff. You're supposed to work for it, but there is something that that is bequeathed upon us as inheritors of this great nation. The bridges are there. The buildings are there. We have to maintain them, but a lot of work was done. This building that I'm in right now, one day I will be dead and someone will get it. And it's a big building. It's 40 feet tall. It's, I think it's like 10,000 combined square feet. It's massive. We built it. It took a long time. It was difficult. It was produced by construction companies and laborers, funded by us with contributions from some of our team. And it was hard to do. But one day someone else will step foot on this property. And they'll say, I'd like to buy this. And someone will have inherited it because I won't be alive. And that is the entitlement of the next generation. Now, what if this building that I'm in right now, or any other building, instead, the government resettled refugees, illegal immigrants into this building by force? Gen Z is supposed to be picking up the pieces that we leave behind, and they're pissed about it. Because instead, They can't afford houses. They can't find good paying jobs. But illegal immigrants are being given all of the benefits of our tax dollars, at the same time creating the strain on the working class. And Gen Z gets it. They've entered the workforce and they're feeling it. Here's the Biden plan. Biden administration considering giving refugees from Gaza permanent safe haven in the U.S. with access to housing and a pathway to citizenship. The fastest way to nuke the electorate for the Democrats, I swear. The Biden administration is considering allowing some Palestinians to come live in the U.S. as refugees. CBS News reported Tuesday that senior officials across several federal agencies have discussed how to resettle Palestinians from Gaza, potentially using the United States Refugee Admissions Program. The individuals chosen would have to have immediate family members who are American citizens or permanent residents. They would have to pass a series of eligibility, medical, and security screenings, but would then be able to obtain resettlement benefits, including housing assistance and a pathway to American citizenship. If the administration goes ahead with its plan, it would mark a major change in U.S. policy. Here's why. This is from U.S. Central Command. The pier building begins. Construction of the floating J-Lots Pier in the Mediterranean is underway. The pier will support U.S. aid and humanitarian partners to receive and deliver humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. U.S. Transcom and U.S. EUCOM support the movement of humanitarian aid. I don't care what you call it. It's an invasion. The construction of this pier, it's going to attach to the coastline of Gaza. The IDF will secure it. And the U.S. will now exert direct influence over the Gaza Strip. What's going to happen? You've got Hamas, the formal government of the Gaza Strip, currently at war with the U.S. The U.S. considers it a terrorist organization. This is war. This is invasion. There are a lot of people that are saying things like, it's not an invasion. It's no, oh, that's clickbait, because that's what I called it last night on Timcast IRL. No, it's an invasion. Hostile enemy territory. Imagine if we set up this pier on Chinese territory and we said, we are going to push this into Hong Kong to deliver humanitarian aid with foreign security partners who have just besieged Hong Kong. You think China's going to be like, that's not an invasion? What would we call it? If Russia invaded Alaska and China built a pier off the coast of Anchorage or something and was like, we're just going to be delivering supplies. An absurd act of war. I'm just pissed off about this one. This to me is like the biggest story right now. The U.S. invading Gaza. Call it whatever you want. And like you can send in whatever you want to the U.S. military, and it is a hostile force trying to keep you out. They're shooting at our troops already, mortar fire. Lloyd Austin says it's likely to happen. How is it anything other than an invasion? Absolutely insane. Well, as you may know, Joe Biden has been sending illegal immigrants under the guise of refugees all across the United States. And we have this breaking story. Huge news. Here are the top American cities Joe Biden is sending hundreds of thousands of paroled migrants. So is your hometown on the list? I also want to stress, my friends, that it is May 1st. That is May Day. This is a far left holiday where they typically go out and act a fool. So get ready for that. The DHS revealed that it sent over 200,000 migrants on a controversial parole program to 45 cities across the U.S. Yeah. The policy enacted in October 2022 allowed migrants who had not entered the country illegally to fly directly into America. Migrants were also required to have a sponsor in the U.S. and pass various vetting tests. It was initially announced for Venezuelans before Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Cubans. Around 80% of the migrants were sent to 4 cities in the state of Florida, Miami. 91,821, more than any other city. Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Tampa Bay were among the top 15 destinations, according to the DHS. We'll scroll down here. Under fire, Secretary Mayorkas says the program led to a reduction in people from those nations illegally crossing the border. You know what this means, right? They tell them they can just come in and we'll pay for it. Then it's not illegal. This was their border security bill the whole time. Democrats, Biden claimed, we're trying to secure the border, but Donald Trump won't let us. People like Bill Maher, not too smart. I say people like Bill Maher. I don't know his comments on this specifically, but I'm saying many of these liberals are like, oh, geez, if only Trump didn't say no. The border security bill, that's what they call it. It was a border amnesty bill. What it would actually do, it would allow these people entering illegally to just have it be called legal. That's it. Then they would say the amount of illegal immigrant encounters has dropped substantially thanks to this bill. Why? Well, the same amount of people that are still coming. In fact, more are coming. They're still crossing the border without going through a checkpoint, but we've just called it legal. Yep. I remember in 2019, the Democratic primary, you had every Democrat raise their hand and say they would turn illegally crossing the border into a civil infraction and not a criminal one. That's what Democrats want to do. And I just hope and I pray Gen Z gets it. But look, this is 5 years ago. We're talking about 20-year-olds. They were 15 when Democrats vowed on stage to burn their birthright to the ground. Not enough people are paying attention to this. Conservatives need to be paying attention to this. We need to be talking about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha especially, they're not voting yet, but Gen Z is now in the voting block. And they're wondering why it is they can't afford anything. They're wondering why it is they were told you work hard, you succeed, they can't buy a house. Oh, it's because in 2019, all the Democrats vowed to give away the resources and assets built by those before you. They were going to give it away to non-citizens. Donald Trump said he wanted to build a wall. It's unfortunate because Trump needs to get his message to younger people. The MAGA, the right, they need to be getting their message to younger people saying, look, man, that house is supposed to be yours. It is. The person who lived there, they passed on. And it was inherited by a 40 or 50-year-old who lives out of state. And so they decided to put it on the market. They're putting it on the market for a slightly lower rate, slightly below market, because, well, they don't live there. They inherited it from their family. And guess what? That means you, young person, that's how you find homes you can afford. I got bad news, though. Squatters are taking some of these over. Illegal immigrants are being given these benefits. They're being given luxury hotels and apartments. They're straining the lower skilled labor market. So all of these young people who are getting out of college, who should be getting $20, $25 an hour, can't find these jobs. Well, they're entry-level positions. But you've got people coming to this country who can handle a lot of the basics of this. The competition is impossible. Let me tell you guys. Gen Z, I hope you hear this. 2008, the Great Recession. It didn't hit me so hard. I actually kind of laughed about it. Why? Here's how I describe it. Here's my economic level, and here's everybody else. And then the Great Recession hits, and I go like that, and everyone goes like that. And I'm like, my disposition has changed very little when the market collapsed because I'm already poor and sleeping on couches. But it did affect me. I remember I was trying to find a way to make some cash. I'm like, I only need a couple $100 a month to survive. And there was a diner right next to where I had been staying at my friend's house. I saw on Craigslist that they were looking for a dishwasher. And I was like, wow. How old was I? I think I was, that would have made me 20, 21, 22. And I was like, I think I was like 21. And I said, yeah, I could certainly do that. I must have been 22 at the time. I went into the diner and I was standing, waiting to talk to the person there's like a counter. There's a guy in front of me wearing a suit with a briefcase. And he walks up to the person at the register and says, I'm looking for a job and I see that you have a dishwasher position available, and he hands a resume. And this guy had to have been at like 26, 27, a little bit older than me, but I'm just wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. And I thought to myself, like, holy crap. I was like, all right, I'm not going to do this. Now, many people said, Tim, they probably would have hired you over that guy because they're worried that guy would quit right away. And, maybe my point was what I saw were older people with skills and experience and requirements. And I don't think that narrative is true, to be honest. This slightly older guy is going to say, look, I can't lose this job. And they say, yeah, but when something better comes along, you'll leave. And he's like, maybe in 6 months, but you got me for 6 months and I will do this job because I've got a family. I have to pay those bills. And I'm like, That's what you're up against. The realization was not that I wasn't going to be a dishwasher. What I did was I took my guitar, went in the subway and played there, ended up making way more money. Playing guitar outside of Wrigley Field during baseball games not only was super fun, but it was like $200 an hour. It was crazy. But you really only had like a half an hour, 45 minutes when the game let out where everyone's drunk and you're playing top 40s where you made money. So me and my friend would play together and we'd make like 150 to $200 and split it. And we were like, yeah, it was great. It was good fun. And it was way better work. But we had those skills. Like I could play guitar and sing and we knew the songs. So for the people who didn't have those same kind of skills and couldn't find work. But the realization was this. I was talking to a friend about it and they said, look, man, with the Great Recession, you're going to have a lot of older people with a lot of skills all competing for slightly lower tier jobs, meaning the remaining companies have their pick of the litter. Good luck. Your entry-level, low-skill labor dude, you're like early 20s. They're going to find someone who's 25 who's been an assistant manager or a supervisor at a store. And, everyone likes to push that narrative that, no, they're not going to pick the older person because they'll leave right away. Not necessarily true. You go to a store and you say, I want to make coffee. I want to be a barista. I just need a job. And there's going to be a guy who's going to be like, I was a shift manager at a coffee shop, 3 years ago. Got a job in an office, but everything's shut down. So I'm looking for whatever I can get. And hopefully, while I'm here, I'll grow. And they're going to say, guy who has previous experience working at a coffee shop, entry-level kid who needs training. Who are you going to pick? And some say, oh, the entry-level kid because they'll stick around longer. No, they won't. Kids notoriously have high turnaround. I say kids, but like young adults. Here's a person with bills. They ain't going nowhere. Plus, they already have the experience. They can start right away, especially if they already worked for you before. Now, Burris is not a good example because I actually worked at the family restaurant, but I just mean like jobs like that. When you get entry-level young people who are in college, let's talk about in college. You're in college and you are working. You are trying to make money so you can pay your bills or have a little extra cash. You go to the coffee shop, illegal immigrant, got a work permit. They're working there now because they're like, I need very little. I have very little bills and I'm getting free money from the government. They give me $3,000 a month for my family and my bills so I can afford to work here. Gen Z needs to understand this. When they give the illegal immigrants debit cards with cash on them in New York, this means these people can go to any business and say, I don't need to make $15 an hour. I think that's the minimum wage in New York right now. But they'll be like, pay me the minimum. The government's subsidizing the rest. You go in there and say, well, I'm getting nothing from the government, so I need $20 an hour. And the store is going to laugh in your face. They're going to say, dude, we can't afford to pay $20 an hour. This guy's taking 15. He's hired. Have a nice day. And you're wondering why you can't afford a place to live. Here you go. This is from Gallup in February, end of February. Immigration has become the top issue. Now, I don't know if it still is, but back in February, it was the most important problem. In California, take a look at this. Gen Z and millennials sour on immigration, according to Newsweek. A statewide survey published by the Public Policy Institute of California, conducted between February 6th and 13th, found that younger generations have larger disapproval towards benefits provided to immigrants when compared with a similar PPIC survey published in June 2023. I just hope Gen Z hears the message, man. They're not a big voting bloc. The youth vote has never been the principal factor. It's always the older vote. And this is why the Israel stuff is really bad news for Democrats, because even MSNBC is calling out these anti-Israel protesters. So Biden's between a rock and a hard place. Apparently, the big news is that Trump is going to be speaking at the Libertarian Party National Convention at the end of the month, which is amazing. Trump is pulling out all the stops. He's building a coalition. But I hope young people understand this. You don't got to like Trump. You don't got to vote for Trump. Just understand, whatever it is you vote for, when they bring in this mass migration, you are destroying. When you support this, you are destroying your chance at a future. But that's how they prey upon them. The Democrats prey upon the naivety of these young people who don't get it. I will stress it again. And I think, the largest demographic we have here on the Timcast News and Timcast IRL is like 33 to 35. A little bit younger than me, but I think that's around the age people start caring about news more. So it's a bit consistent there. Earlier on when I started this channel, excuse me, how old was I? I mean, it's like 6-7 years ago. So it was like 28, which makes sense. And now it averages like 33 to 35. But there's a lot of 18 to 24-year-olds, people under 30 watching this stuff. This is the message that I hope they hear. You need an entry-level job. And that means for a lot of people, what is it like the CEO of UPS? I don't know if the current CEO, but there's a story where he started as like just a warehouse guy, worked his way up to the CEO. Something like that. Maybe it's not UPS. I don't know. But that's the story they tell. There's the guy at Frito-Lay who was I think it was a janitor. Love this story. And the CEO or something put out a message to all the employees saying, we're always interested in your ideas. If you have any ideas, submit them and we're willing to hear it. And so what this guy would do is he would take the dry Cheetos before they put the cheese on it, the extras, and he would put it in a bag and he would sprinkle like chili powder and salt or something like that on it and shake it up. So it would be kind of like, the traditional Mexican snack. And his family, they loved it. So he made a video explaining what he does and his idea. I love this story. And people at Frito-Lay were like, you're a janitor. Are you nuts? He's not talking about you. Don't submit that. Don't give him that idea. No, you're wasting your time. Submits the idea. And they immediately were like, yes, this is brilliant. We could easily do this. And it created the most popular product they have, Flamin' Hots. I love that idea. This is the idea of the working class guy. Now, I believe this guy was an immigrant too. And he went on to become like the head of relations for like Central and Latin American countries. But the idea is entry-level jobs open the door. Janitor. Well, that could be you. Maybe you're saying, look, I'm in college. I don't want to be a janitor. Everybody pays their dues. I worked fast food. It is what it is. What did I work? I worked at Portillo's in Chicago when I was a teenager. I worked at the airport at O'Hare as a baggage handler and then acting crew chief. So loading planes, lifting bags. That's it. Lifting bags. Throwing them. Yeah, well, they actually do throw them, but putting them in a plane. One day you'll find it. You'll go to a job. I'm 18. I'm looking for work, and they have a job fair. And my dad's like, they're doing a job fair for AA's regional airline, American Eagle. You should go. I did. And I got hired basically right away. And 18 years old, lifting bags and putting them in planes. And that's the opportunity. It's a simple job. It paid, so it started at $10.75 an hour, but I got free flights anywhere in the world called non-rev. That was amazing. And it's a good job. It was not the hardest thing in the world. You'd load about 5 planes per day. So you'd unload and load about 5 planes per day, and you'd have a decent amount of downtime, maybe like a half an hour or so in between, just waiting for your plane to either land and then take off. Within like a year or so, I got a promotion and an extra $1 an hour. And then there were tremendous opportunities for growth. They were hiring safety supervisors and things like that. That was one big promotion that happened. Someone got that job. That wouldn't be available to me today when they're giving out all these jobs to illegal immigrants. And so that opportunity, which I worked there for 2 years, kind of crazy to think about. And for 2 years I worked there. It was a struggle. It was hard, but I was 18 to 20 years old. I wouldn't even have that job. I don't even know what I'd be doing. Because something as entry-level and as simple as loading planes can be done by anybody. And they're giving those jobs away. Jobs that should be given to young people in this country. Not available to you. That's what they're taking away from you. I think this is why we are seeing these trends. Politico. The polls are suggesting a huge shift in the electorate. Are they right? Young people going Republican, older people going Democrat. I think this is the reason why. Now, to bring it back to the first story, bringing in refugees from Gaza. We have millions of illegal immigrants already entering the country. With the invasion of Gaza by the IDF and now assisted by the U.S. forces building a beachhead, I think it's very, very likely they're going to bring substantially more people to the U.S. at a time when our economy is already strained and our culture is already crumbling. Don't vote for these people. Maybe it's Trump, maybe it's not, but you know, if we carry on this path that we have for the past 4 years, I can only say this. I hope you know how to start a fire in the woods, to hunt and source clean water, because I don't think the world's going to end. The country will be here. There will be jobs, but a lot of you are going to have to start figuring out how to survive. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.